What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more acid-techno, or perhaps acid-trance if you prefer. This is a record by Gamble 202. It's called Spicy Bread of Charity, though bread here is spelled B-R-E-D, as in, you know, something that has been bred for a certain purpose, or as a sort of inheritor of an older entity. Nevertheless, it is a track called Blue Index. If you go to the Discogs page for this release, you will see that there's a bit of a conversation, maybe not a debate, about what to call this. I chimed in. Ultimately, I would say it's like a lot of 90s records, especially like mid-90s records in the acid style. There are characteristics and attributes of both acid-techno and acid-trance styles, and many tunes are sort of hybridized or kind of ride the line between the two genres. You know, even Stay Up Forever and especially Smitten, two of the most old school, like classic London acid-techno labels, if you listen to a lot of their first few records, or a lot of the tracks on their first few records, there are tracks that really have a lot of hybridized flavor. Like it's, you know, there's a bit of trance stylings, there's a bit of techno stylings, and over time both labels eventually came to inhabit the sonic space that we now think of when we think of sort of, you know, classic 90s London acid techno. But again, both labels, and maybe even more so Smitten, the first couple records, there are tracks where you could legitimately call them acid trance. All that being said, I actually think this one is more down the acid techno path, but there are a couple people who commented on this on the Discogs page who say, you know, this is like typical acid trance for me. So I hear it as more acid techno. The kick drum is heavier, it's a bit faster, just the frenetic intensity of both the track overall and specifically the acid work. It just speaks more to the acid techno side of my brain, but feel free to disagree and feel free to, you know, chime in on the Discogs page. But it's from 1995. It's on a label called, is it Network 23? Which feels like it's sort of a, I think this is related to the, or 23 Frankfurt. Maybe it's not related to the Spiral Tribe, but I feel like it's maybe done in homage to the Spiral Tribe, where it was like, you know, building off that kind of free party legacy. Nevertheless, Gamble 202 is Gabriel Schmidt and Marcus Kosman. And this is their tune Blue Index from the Spicy Bread of Charity Part 2 release on 23 Frankfurt 1995. And let me make sure this is the right side. Well, I'm going to assume this is the right side, but I will know very quickly if it's not. The way the bottom drops out of this opening, this drops us hard into the track. Yeah, that kick and bass line to me, that doesn't speak acid trance to my brain. And I love acid trance, but to me this ain't that. Sharper and faster, and the main line kind of like lightly wavering in the middle of the track. Kick and bass is very like basketball bounce. It's very elastic. Reverse lasers, anyone? A reverse laser storm? Favorite part is still coming. So it's like the heat of the acid is just being toyed with hotter, like colder, hotter, colder. And eventually this reverse laser storm will bring us to an electrical storm, like an electron storm. Buzzing, frenetic. Acid's gone full liquidy, just like spraying corrosive acid everywhere. It's like, I love how you can hear any part of the acid line in isolation or make it part of the larger phrase. Like my brain can just sort of switch it. God, the electrical storm, I can't handle it. Extra flourishes, these little, 16 measure rolls, it's crazy. The idiosyncrasy of 90s acid music. Very few people today can still make tracks that you have no idea where they're going. And that's, I like tracks that are more predictable, that's fine. But again, there's something insane about a lot of 90s acid tracks. You just have no idea what's happening. Yeah, that's great. Right here it's reminding me of Acid, some of their work from much later, but I think at the end of this sort of swirling cyclone, it ends. Thank you, good sir. Indeed, thank you, Campbell 202. Just a classic. Now, the tune on the other side, both of these tracks were on The Sound of Acid Core, I think Volume 1. In fact, I'm sure Volume 1, which I mentioned it before, not for a long time, and maybe not even on my new channel. This is something that I talked about a lot in my the first sort of month of reactions I was doing to acid-techno and acid-trance, because in those videos I talked a little bit more about where I came from as a DJ and why I was interested in acid music and all that. There was a bit more of a personal flavor, but some of those videos were crazy long, which is why I try to trim things down by the time I got to this channel and as time has gone on. Nevertheless, those CDs, Sound of Acid Core Volumes 1, 2, and 3 in particular, even more specifically 1 and 2, which I got those early '97. I think the first one came out late '96, second one came out very early '97. and I think like spring of '97 I would have gotten these. And yeah, they're just chock full of like classic acid techno and acid trance tunes, as well as some tunes that sort of ride the line, like this one. So both Blue Index and Spicy Bread of Charity Part 2 are on the Sound of Acid Core Volume 1. So this was, or this was two tunes, or these were two tunes that I was aware of and I was seeking out by the time I began to get records after I bought turntables. I didn't get it right away. It took me some years, and it wasn't until I was on Discogs years later. So this is one that like I was very happy to get when I got it. I did have to spend a little bit. I don't remember exactly what I paid, but you know, I think it was like over $50. It was like $70, $80, something like that, to get a decent copy of it. But I am happy I did it. So that was now 10 years ago. So it feels like money well spent. But like I said, yeah, these are two tracks that I really wanted to get. The tune on the other side, Spicy Bread of Charity Part 2, is very different. It's like almost like acid kind of core. It's not acid core, it's more like hard acid, but it has a much heavier sort of stomping, pounding kind of sound. So it's interesting, the variety on this record. We'll come back for that one at some point. It also has a very prominent mouse-like synth, and my brother used to call it the rave mouse track when I would play it. So we'll come back for the rave mouse, but do let me know what you think of this one, and we'll see you next time. Peace.